everybody. Hi to my online family. And I mean, you're all my human family. And, behind me are my non human family trees, plants, whatnot. This is Rachel Stravelli. I'm doing a Facebook Live, but later this will be uploaded to YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube later, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And today I'm going to delve deep into how to make a change to your social circle and when to do it, when you know it's time for a change, and some nice ways to do it so that you don't feel like you're just like, get out of my life, loser. Because I know you don't want to be that person, and nobody wants to receive that either. And this is actually a video. I'm back by popular demand today. There was a request that I make this video because, it's kind of like yesterday, and I'll link to this to the side, that side, whatever side it's on, or below on YouTube, to the video that I made yesterday about how the company that we keep, how that impacts us. And some of it is unconscious and a lot of it's unconscious. A lot of it, there's brain scientists estimate that by the time we're 35 and older, that something like 90 to 95% of our thoughts and like regular actions and habits are all kind of, what do you call it, fixed. And so to adopt new things or to adopt new thoughts after that can actually take a little bit of effort. And so one of the easiest ways, I think, to actually make changes in your life is to change the people that you are around. And this is why, although I do work with people one-on-one and help them to reconnect to themselves more and connect to nature, I also love working with people in groups because you have the community to connect with. You have other people to learn from. You have new friends that you're making who are also doing the same things that you're doing. And so it's kind of just like your growth, I think, can be exponential. And I actually have a program I'm going to be running soon. So if you think that might be intriguing to you, then message me and I can send you more details. I'm still firming up the details right now. So when and how do you restructure your friend circle? I have had to do this many times in my life. Sometimes it was because of situational. Right now I'm in the midst of doing it. I moved to a new place. Hi, Debbie. When you move, naturally, this is a part of your life. When you take a new job, when the people who I know who grew up with like quote unquote army brat or who were in the military and moved around a lot, they kind of just every 2 or 3 years had to redo their whole social structure because they were in a whole new place. Similarly, I think some children of ministers and reverends have to move around periodically. So, and sometimes it happens for other reasons. You decide to give up smoking, you end a relationship, and all of a sudden, all the people who were around you because of that relationship, they're just not in your life anymore. Sometimes it happens because you start going to school and you don't have time to do the things that you did. In my life, one of the phases in which it happened was when I had children. I felt like suddenly, oh yeah, I need to have other friends who have kids because the saying "it takes a village," like I don't think that idea is ever going to become a non-existent reality because you need more than just yourself when you're raising kids, and you need more than just your small family. I forget what the term is for that. I'm thinking the words internal family, but that's not the phrase. So, and gosh, in high school, I feel like I did this almost every single year. Definitely, I have spent a lot of time thinking about and working on how do I make friends? Because, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm kind of a quirky character and I also like to speak my truth. And so, I mean, sometimes I don't want to, but I do. And because I think it has to be done. And that doesn't always make people be like, let me hang out with that person. And so I definitely feel like, oh, I've had to learn a little bit more. Some of these things didn't come to me easily. And there were very lonely periods of my life. And then, and also a lot of people assume that like friendship just happens. There's this woman, Shasta Nelson, who has written a couple books, and she also has an online group. I think it's called Girlfriends Connect. And she has studied friendship a lot. She's a friendship expert. And it actually doesn't just happen. Like, yes, there are sometimes people we meet and we just hit it off and, oh, it's amazing. I see that happen with my daughter a lot. Like when we're younger, that definitely happens. As we get older, logistically speaking, it's not as easy. And one of the things that really makes a difference in friendship and social relationships, and that also makes it sometimes challenging to change, is the issue of frequency. So when you're young and you're in school, and you make your friend riding the bus, or you make your friend who's in your class, you see those people 5 days a week or 4 days a week or pretty frequently. And then if you go to university and college, then you're typically seeing those people maybe 2 days a week or 3 days a week. You may also run into them in the caf, in the commons, the quad, or whatever it's called at your school. And so you've still got that element of frequency. But then when you move outside of that, if you don't end up having work friends, or you work from home and work remotely, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, how do I create these structures to have people in my life? And you may have people in your life right now who you think, these people, if I met them today, we probably wouldn't be great friends. Like I met them 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 2 years ago, and that we really connected then, but we don't connect anymore. And so then there's the question of, how do you start to distance yourself from those people and also fill your life with new people, who are going to help you to do what it is that you want to do, to move you forward towards the things that you really dream of, and healthy goals and habits that you have. So I want you to think about frequency, because what you're going to try and do, frequency is kind of one of the big ideas here. You're going to try and find ways to make your contact with the people that you want to be around more frequent, and the people who you don't want to be around less frequent. And as I'm saying this, I kind of almost feel like, okay, well, yeah, that's a no-brainer, Rachel. Like, thank you very much for like putting it in those words. But I want to simplify it, because at the bottom line, that's what we're doing here. And so then what I'm helping you with is, okay, well, what are the ways that you can do that? What are the ways that you can increase the frequency for the people that you do want to connect with, and decrease the frequency with the people that you feel like they're dragging you down, or you don't want to hear about their problems all the time, or it's become one of those relationships where you feel like, this isn't really good for me? And not just in a selfish like, oh, are you good for me, but like something about it feels like destructive, or it feels harmful, or you really want to be working out 3 days a week, and these people always want you to go to Krispy Kreme donuts with them, or another donut shop, and you're like, this is just not fitting with my life. Or maybe you want to drink less, and these people want to drink, and they want to party, and they want to do all the recreational stuff all the time, and you're like, I really don't want to do that. But what happens with a lot of us is, if we've already had a habit of hanging out with these people, it can sometimes be hard to just be like, okay, cutting it off, flipping the switch, changing right now. I've had a few times in my life where things change that dramatically, and where like I had an encounter with a friend, and I saw a new side of them that really bothered me, and then I was like, okay, like I'm done with this person. And there were very few times in my life where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to walk away and make a clean break. And sometimes people will do that with romantic relationships as well. But for most of it, it's kind of a transition period of like slowly toning down and tempering down. And, you know, either way that works for you is perfectly fine. But one of the things that I want you to do as you're thinking about how to do this is to do some self-reflection. You can do that while I'm drinking. You want to do some self-reflection and think about, so if you know yourself, then you're going to want to plan this out so that it can work out the best way. Because if you don't plan it out, you're probably just going to go back to your default, which is spending time with the people who don't align with your goals and the future that you want to have, or even that your present that you want to have, and not making effort to meet the people who, or spend time with the people who would support that, who are, in line with that and in alignment. So you want to go ahead and know yourself. Are you the type of person who, if you have a Friday evening or a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday evening where there's nothing that you've planned and that person calls you up, we'll call her person X, um, are you going to say yes because you don't want to lie to her, you don't want to make up an excuse, blah, 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 and you're like, oh, it's just easier to just say yes and do it? If you know that you are that kind of person, then you're going to need to be thoughtful and take different action than if you're the kind of person who can just tell person X when they call, oh yeah, I'm just going to stay in today. I'm going to clean out my car and reorganize my closet, or, whatever it is that you say you're going to do. Or you might say, oh yeah, I'm going to do something, so I'm not going to hang out with you. Or you might just not answer their call. If you know that you can have that conversation with them or just not answer their call and handle it that way, then handle it that way. But if you know that you're the kind of person where I don't consider you this, but you might in your mind be like, I'm weak, I'm going to give in. If you feel that that's going to happen to you, then your job is to plan ahead before that person calls. So what I would suggest, one option is take out your calendar, planner, whatever you use to make plans. Maybe pull up your local like events newspaper or whatever it is, publication that happens in your town that has things going on. Pull out the contacts list on your phone, and maybe even get a piece of paper too. Make a list of what are some of the things you would like to do over the next month. Let's say you want to run a 5K. Okay, so maybe you want to tell yourself, okay, I'm going to run once a week to start like getting in the habit of doing that. I know you have to run more than that for a 5K, but you're just getting started here. Maybe you want to be showing your work in a craft fair. So you're like, okay, I need to be visiting some craft fairs, networking with some other artists. So go ahead and brainstorm, like, what are the things that you feel like are aligned with what your future vision is and your future goals for yourself, and put down a couple of those ideas on paper. Also, or on your phone, or however you document these things. I do like doing it on paper because it's really great to get it out of your head. And even though our phones are not in our heads, we use them so much, like it uses a different part of our brains when we use them. So get it out on paper. Also, when I have done this, what I like to do is I list the 4, 5, 6, however many people who, whenever I spend time with them, either A, I never want it to end, and it's always so much fun, and we always are like, oh my gosh, did I tell you about this? Did I tell you about that? Oh, tell me about whatever. And like the conversation is just going, or whatever we do, we just have a great time. And that I always feel like, oh, I want to see them more. Whoever those people are, I put those on my list. And so then what I go ahead and do is I say, okay, well, over the next month, like I've got 3 or 5 things that are aligned with my future vision that I want to do. And I've got these 2 or 3 or 4 people who I really want to see on a more frequent basis. And then you look, will any of those people align with your vision? Like, could you ask a friend to go to the craft fair with you? Could you ask a friend to go out dancing with you if you want to go out dancing and hear live music more? Do any of those match up together? Is one of those friends also interested in starting a business or learning to play guitar or running a 5K? And so then you look at those things. Is one of those people single and you're single and you think, okay, that would be really great. We can go out and be single together. So go ahead and see, are there any connections there? And then reach out to those people and go ahead and make plans with them. Now, you might look at your calendar and see, okay, well, there's still a couple gaps where person X could call me and I'm not going to have plans to say, I'm not going to already have plans to say, sorry, I can't hang out with you. I'm hanging out with so and so and we're going to a craft fair. Then I would say this is the time to pull out your local paper or, go ahead and make a commitment in one way or another. Oh, thanks for the thumbs up, that you are going to do that thing on Saturday afternoon or Saturday night. If you really want to start a hobby, some hobbies or like side hustles, they involve a lot of time just sitting your butt in the chair and doing the thing. Like if you're a crafter, you're going to have to sit there and do the craft. Or if you're a painter, you have to sit there and paint. When I'm writing, yeah, I can meet someone at a cafe and we can write together, but inevitably I have to be sitting down focusing on my writing. And so maybe you'll book a studio space, or maybe you'll tell yourself, okay, Saturday afternoon, I'm going to go to this cafe that I like and order such and such, and I'm going to sit there and write. And you can tell then if that person X calls, you can be like, sorry, I'm already planning to do this writing. Thanks for calling. Can't connect with you. So that's one way to go ahead and set up your time. And what I have done as well is, so this is kind of my second or third tip. I have a reminder on my phone that goes off every Sunday afternoon to encourage me to look at the week ahead and have I made plans with any of those 4 people that I always love to see, that I never get tired of hanging out with, that we always just have so much to say and we have such a great time. Because I just know that life gets busy and people get plans, and sometimes if I don't make an effort to connect with these people, it might be 2 or 3 weeks before we see each other, or sometimes it might be 6 weeks. And then when we hang out, it's great, but then if it's 6 more weeks, well then why am I putting off all these good times just because I didn't use technology to help me plan ahead? So I have a weekly reminder that goes off every Sunday afternoon that says make plans with, and then it has the people's names. Since I've moved, that's kind of, I'm going to have new people on my list. Another idea for you is go ahead and have a time, potentially a regular time, where you're doing this new hobby, you're doing this new habit, so that you are really involved in your forward momentum. And that way it really starts to take more of your time, and you're going to inevitably meet new people. And if you live in a small town where there's not a lot of people doing this thing as well, go on and find some online communities. Go on to Meetup, find if there's face-to-face communities. Like, there are so many ways that you can connect with other people doing these things. And if there's not a lot of people that or you can't find the groups, I mean, heck, message people on YouTube or Facebook who are like the experts in this and ask them, or look at the other people commenting on their Instagram or their YouTube videos to see, okay, are these people into these things? If you want to find people who are into the same things that you're interested in developing, you can do it, but it's going to involve you stepping out of where you are right now. And it's also going to involve a little bit of unknown and a little bit of discomfort. But honestly, in the long run, it's going to be so much more enjoyable. And if you keep in a regular habit of meeting new people, then it is so much easier, in my opinion, to consistently meet new people than if you go through lulls where you don't hardly meet anyone new for like 4 months or 6 months, and then all of a sudden something happens and you have to meet new people. It can make it a little bit clunky. I've had a few times in my life where I got out of the habit of meeting people because I'm happy how I am, and for whatever reason, trying to reconnect. We'll see if it keeps on going. For whatever reason, let me just take a drink. The friends that I was friends with weren't having a lot of new people coming into our circle. And then I definitely have noticed when I have to make the effort to start meeting new people when I haven't done it in a while, it's really like the first few times I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so awkward at this because I'm just not used to it. I'm not in the habit. I'm not comfortable with it. But like right now at this point in my life, for the past 3 months, I've been meeting new people every few days because we moved. And so it's like in the grocery store, in the library. And okay, I'm not getting everybody's name, but I'm meeting new people a lot. And so I'm more in the mode of it now. And now I'm to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, this is easy. And I'm reminding myself, I want to keep in this habit of, you know, remembering how to make small talk with people, acknowledging that when you're making small talk, it can, lead to bigger things, but you have to start somewhere. Okay, sorry, I'm going to close out some of my windows and see, will that help me to, so that this will tell me that it's not just trying to reconnect. Well, either way, I'm going to go ahead and share a couple more things and then wrap it up. So, and this one I really hope y'all can hear me because this is one of the biggest points. I should have made this earlier, perhaps. A few times I have been really honest with people who were difficult for me to be around. And I have said at various times, there's one instance in particular where a person was going through a lot, and I felt like I was a little bit going through a lot too. And I told her, I said, look, I really am compassionate about what you're going through, and I love you as a person, but it's not really good for me to be in regular contact with us right now. Like, I can't hang out with you for the next few months because I have to preserve my own emotional mental state, and I get very much affected by what you're going through, and I'm sorry, but I just can't be a part of that right now. And you know, I the first time I had that honest of a conversation with someone, I thought this could be the end of the relationship altogether, but that's okay. Like, I have to do this for me. And I have had relationships end, friendships and romantic, when I set strong boundaries and said, look, this is what I need. This is what I cannot, I will not tolerate, et cetera, et cetera. So I know going into it that sometimes that means that's the end of the friendship, but that doesn't mean that I want to shirk away from it, because I don't like being dishonest with people. Like, I'm not dishonest with people, and I also don't want to, for me, just leave someone hanging where they keep on contacting me and they're like, gosh, why does Rachel never answer the phone anymore or respond to my texts? So instead of just pretending like I'm so busy, hey, April, good to see you. I actually have had honest conversations and said, look, like, I'm going through things, and it allows me to not be able to hear what you're going through because it's too much for me. And one of the last times that I did this, the person said, hey, thank you for your honesty. I really appreciate that. And we're still friends. We don't see each other that much. And that's at this point now for other reasons, but just logistically speaking. But yet, like, she handled it really well. And maybe she was, I don't know if honored is the right word, but I'm sure she appreciated that I was being honest with her. And she knew she was going through stuff. And so it might be that somebody who's going through stuff. And at a certain point, even though I know so many of us, we have such big hearts and we're empathic people and we want to help people and we want to be there for them. And sometimes we think, well, I'm the only person that this person has, which probably that's not true. I mean, there is a chance that you're the only person that they have. But is that your fault? Or is that their choice? I would really be surprised if it was your fault that they only had you. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's on them that you're the only person that they have. And it's on you to recognize, this is when I'm giving so much to another person's problems, to another person's issues, and I need to pull back and save some for me, save some of my energy, save some of my emotions and mental space. And Marianne Williamson, I was listening to her recently, some of her lecture series, and she's not the only one who talks about this. Gosh, I think the Buddha and lots of other people talk about this. But she talks about the idea that, like, I or you, we can't be the person to be like another person's salvation. Like, I can't be your savior. I can't be the person to be like, let me come and rescue you from your turmoil. I mean, yeah, I'm a coach, I'm a teacher, like, I help people, I connect with them, but I always acknowledge that you have a wisdom in you and you have a knowledge in you, and I'm not the one who's like being some magical magician who's like, oh, now the shining light is here. Um, and so, but sometimes we can fall into this story of thinking, I have to do this for this person. No one else will do it. Or if I don't do it, it'll go undone. Or if I don't listen to so and so's, complaining about their bad dad or their terrible ex or their terrible wife or husband for the 20th time this month, then no one else will listen. You know what? There's probably a reason no one else will listen. I mean, really? Probably because nobody wants to hear it. I remember there was this time in college where I was dating this guy and he broke up with me, and I was so heartbroken because I thought we were just, it was probably like the first time, at least the first time in college that I deeply was like head over heels in love. And so him breaking up with me, even though it wasn't meant to be, and he wasn't even the best person for me breaking up with the image in my mind of like, we were so connected, we were supposed to be together, and we were so perfect because we were so much into the natural world and hiking and all this stuff. I complained about it to all my friends and had this sad story about how I was the victim for probably 6 weeks, maybe more. I don't know. It was my first big breakup. And I just remember noticing at a certain point, I was saying the same things all the time, and I could tell my friends were getting tired of it, and they weren't saying anything. Well, I mean, that was part of it. They weren't saying anything. I think they were just tuning out and being like, oh my gosh, here she goes again. And, they were being patient, and that was kind. And I just remember reflecting and thinking, I'm kind of getting tired of hearing this, of hearing myself saying this. And, maybe some of these people are getting tired of it too. But if you are constantly being in the drama with them, you're not really doing them a service. And of course, if you work in a field where, you're a counselor or you are in social work or ministry or like you're caring for an ailing person, I'm not saying abandon the people who you have a moral or whatever duty, obligation, responsibility to. I think that's different than when you have a person in your social circle who is dragging you down, and yet you constantly feel like you have to save them. I see that those two are different. One is a job or a role that you willingly do. You acknowledge that there's some sacrifice. You acknowledge that you're there to help this person. The other one is where at a certain point you feel like, in a way, you're kind of being victimized and they're the victim, and it's just this unpleasant, unhappy mess. And what I want to say is, look, it might be difficult, but sometimes you need to distance yourself. And if you can be honest with them and hold some boundaries, that would be great. I have a video about different ways that you can try holding boundaries. And if you're not good at boundaries, then how you can experiment with getting better at that. But I also think some of it is just a willingness to want better for yourself and to want better for that person. And I heard this one guy, Kyle Cleese, I forget exactly what his last name is. I watched one of his videos yesterday, and the way he described it, he's a comedian who's a transformational speaker as well. And how he describes it is sometimes when we want to do something new in our lives, and it involves giving something up, mentally we can see the thing that we're giving up, but mentally we can't yet conceive of everything we will gain. But we can gain so much by moving forward into the unknown, into something that feels more expansive and more aligned and more true to who we are. And by staying the same when that same is not helping you and is actually keeping you small and miserable and feeling like a victim and feeling trapped and not feeling like it's a good use of your time and energy, that's not being helpful. And there's so many wonderful things that we can do with our time here on earth. And I mean, hey, we know, like, even though I think we're spiritual beings, our time here is finite. Like, there will be an end to it. Who knows when that will happen? But do we want to spend that time being with all the people who drag us down, so that when we look back, we're like, yeah, there was another ho-hum day with so and so who really annoys me? No, I don't think you want that. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for me. Um, so I really encourage you to just try out some new ways of restructuring who you're around and looking for those people who light you up, who make you feel inspired. Spend more time with them. Spend less time with people who you feel like are dragging you down and pulling you down. And one of my favorite quotes about fall, I've been collecting all these fall leaves, which they don't really look so pretty when I hold them just like that. But is this line, I don't know who said it. I'll have to look up who the original person was. But fall, or wait, how does it go? Fall is when, yeah, I think it goes something like this. Fall is when nature tells us, shows us how beautiful it is to let go. And I'm taking a deep breath